Hello and welcome to my series on how to stay healthy and sane during these trying times. I'm a professional speaker who helps busy people stay healthy, sane, and productive. And during these difficult times during the pandemic, I'm reaching out to people to make sure they are staying healthy and sane. So welcome. If you missed my first video, let me give you a brief overview because it's a great segue into what we're going to be talking about today. If you remember, I said that when things got difficult, my mom used to always say, well, it wouldn't hurt to say a prayer. And so the prayer that always comes to mind is the Serenity Prayer. It reads, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that's why I encouraged you to limit the amount of time that you spend and the attention you give to those things you have no control about. It's like putting trash in your brain. We can't control the virus. We can't change some of the policies. We can't change some of the restrictions it's placed on our lives. And you know what? We can't change other people's behavior as much as we would like to. We can't change them. They'll only change if they want to change. So when we spend too much time focusing on those issues, reading the news and watching the news, looking at social media and getting all upset, the only person you're hurting is you. So the first thing you want to do is recognize, what are those things that I can't change? And try not to spend much time on them. But what can you do? Because that's what I'm all about, helping people understand there are so many things you do have control over. So I want you to take charge of that. And I call that the circle of influence. In other words, these are the only things you seriously have control over. You have control over the way you eat, sleep, move, and think. That's it. So take charge of those. And every video, I'm going to cover one of these things. Today, we're going to talk about how to eat during the pandemic, how to keep us healthier and sane by changing the way we eat. If you know me, you know I'm not all about what the literature says, what the medical science says. There's plenty of guidelines as to what is healthy for you to do, but let's face it, if it's not realistic and practical in your life, what difference does it make? I also stress the importance of make it energizing, and I'll explain that in a little bit. So when all those things come together, that's what I want you to be focusing on. For example, if you're trying to get dinner together for everybody, it might be practical to order pizza every night, but you know what? It's probably not healthy. It's probably not very energizing. On the other hand, to just follow the guidelines as for what is healthy for you to eat, if it's so far removed from where you are, well, that's not very practical. In the same way that our cars need to be properly fueled in order to operate, well, guess what? So do we. And that's why I've spent most of my career focused on this whole idea of energy management. In fact, my most recent book is called Reboot: How to Power Up Your Energy, Focus, and Productivity. Because when you have good energy, when you feel energized, guess what? Everything comes together. You can focus and concentrate. You're more creative. You can brainstorm so things don't stumble you up. Your body feels more energized, so you feel like moving. It's not like you have to make yourself exercise. You want to exercise. Same thing with willpower. You need energy to have willpower. So if you are not feeling energized, all that stuff is calling your name. And you're probably going to indulge in things that you say you don't want to do. People who are energized make fewer mistakes. They have fewer accidents. And people will appreciate it because you're in a better mood. You're more positive about life. So the key for me is feeling energized in the way you live your life. It's critical, especially during this difficult time. So today we're going to focus on one of the aspects in the circle of influence, and that's the way you eat. See, food is fuel for your body. And I'll tell you, maybe you already knew that, but I had to get 6 years of college education, a bachelor's and a master's degree, before it really got in my brain how important food is to energize us, to make us go. And I'm not talking about physical movement, all those things we talked about earlier, how to think and concentrate, how to have a good positive mood, how to stay level emotionally. And it all requires food. And just think about it. Have you ever had a moment where you didn't get enough to eat? Maybe because of work, maybe because of responsibilities, maybe it was because there was nothing in the house or you had to wait too long to eat at a restaurant. Do you remember what it felt like when you didn't get enough food? Not just your stomach was growling, you probably got kind of weak and lightheaded, maybe you got a headache, your mood was maybe a little grumpy, a little hangry. See, when we don't get the proper fueling, it changes everything. On the other hand, people think, well, a lot of food is a lot of fuel. I should feel very energized. And well, you know that doesn't happen, right? Have you ever overeaten, perhaps on the weekend or on the holidays? You feel sluggish as well. So making sure we have the right amount of fuel not only will make us feel better and perform better, but you know what? It makes life so much easier because you're not thinking about food. You feel more in control in your life. I personally know a lot about that because, well, all while I was getting those degrees in nutrition and becoming a registered dietitian, I had an eating disorder. In fact, it started when I was 16 years old. I weighed about what I do right now, a very normal, healthy weight. But for some reason, I got it in my brain that I was overweight. And that summer, I dropped 40 pounds, 40 pounds. And yes, my mom worried about me. She took me into the doctor. But just like people who abuse alcohol or drugs, we are big fat liars. So I lied my way through it. Oh, this is the way it's always been. I don't know what story she's telling you. This is my normal weight. I didn't get the help that I needed. And a lot of it had to do with, we didn't really understand a lot about eating disorders. But I was anorexic, I was bulimic, I was a binge eater, so I know all about losing control with your eating. And it wasn't until I got some help from another registered dietitian who helped me to understand food as fuel. When you eat just enough to fuel your body, you're not hungry, you're not full, you feel energized, all those good things are going. And you know what? Food doesn't call your name in the same way. Now, that doesn't mean that it helped me to get rid of all my eating disorders. Well, you know, eating disorders are a mental illness. So that took years of therapy. But it helped me to get into that first phase where I controlled my eating. Once I had the proper fuel in my body by eating properly, guess what? I had more energy to work on the headpiece. So thinking about food as fuel is very important. Ask yourself before you eat, how is this going to make me feel? Eating a whole batch of chocolate chip cookies is not going to make you feel at your very best. Could you eat something a little bit more well-rounded? We'll talk about that. My guess is you still might want a cookie, but you're not going to overindulge in the same way because you're feeling energized. So what should you be eating? Well, I think it's really important to feel energized to eat 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Okay, you're not hungry at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning. I get it. But when are you hungry? Don't put off eating. So many times we've been taught to, oh, just ride out your hunger. I mean, you feel hungry, just wait another 15, 20 minutes and your hunger will go away. And you know what? It does. But do you know what's happening in your body when you ignore your hunger? Well, your body chews up some of that lean muscle mass to give you the glucose that you need for the brain to function. It's not a good thing. Do you ignore the urge to go to the bathroom? I doubt it, right? It's a normal body function. And of course, if you have to go to the bathroom, you go to the bathroom. So think of hunger in the same way. That is a body signal telling you that your body needs fuel. Feed it. I think when you respect that a little bit more, eat maybe even a bigger breakfast and a bigger lunch. Don't automatically assume, oh, I'm going to be eating so much for the rest of the day. It doesn't work that way. When you look at research studies, people who eat a bigger breakfast and a bigger lunch tend to eat less later on in the day. And that's a good thing. That means you're fueling your body when you need that food the most. We don't need it right before we go to bed, do we? So what should you have on your plate? Now, here in the United States, we have guidelines as to what to put on your plate. I like the Canadian food guide, which is what this is. Now, it's talking about having a quarter of your plate, having some protein. It doesn't have to be animal protein. It can be plant protein as well. But protein is really important, not just for building muscles, but it helps us to control the hunger. When you have a portion of protein that's adequate, you don't feel as hungry. You've probably noticed that when you have just waffles or pancakes or cereal for breakfast, it's not going to keep you full in the same way that, say, having an egg omelet would. Protein will help to increase what we call our satiety, making you feel fuller. So think about 1/4 of your plate. You don't have to have more. More is not better. It doesn't work that way. And then have a quarter starches. Make them whole grain starches, like brown rice and whole grain pastas and breads. I love popcorn and oatmeal. You can have beans there as well, or some of the winter squashes like butternut and acorn squash. Potatoes fit in there as well. So there's lots of choices, and then fill up the rest of your plate with lots of fruits and vegetables. Now, if what you eat is way different than that, it's okay. Start from where you are. Remember, it's all about being practical and realistic. So if dinner is oftentimes a hamburger on a bun, well, you've got the protein, you've got the starches. Let's add some fruits and vegetables. And you don't like them? Well, my guess is you just haven't found a way to enjoy them. I grew up in a large family, and all we ate was canned corn and canned green beans. Guess what? Most of my siblings grew up and they ate canned corn and canned green beans. It was just what they were used to. But explore and find out how to prepare other vegetables so you like them. For example, my daughter, my husband, they didn't like yellow squash. I learned to like it. But you know what? They didn't like it and they weren't eating it. So I found a recipe for squash casserole. You basically just boil that squash until it's going to fall apart. You mash it up with a little butter, a little bit of breadcrumbs. You bake it in the oven. They ate it all up. So it wasn't that they didn't like yellow squash. They just didn't like it the way I made it. You don't like boiled broccoli? Frankly, I don't blame you. I love it roasted. Just chop it in little pieces, put it in a 400-degree oven till it's kind of even a little crispy. So good. It brings out the sweetness in it. I roast a lot of vegetables that way. So don't rule out, oh, I don't like vegetables. You know, remember we talked in the Serenity Prayer about changing the things that you do have control over. We do have control over our taste buds. A lot of it we just got used to eating a certain way, but that doesn't mean we can't change them. And that'll keep us healthier and, yeah, saner and feeling a little bit more energized. I've been hearing a lot of reports about people doing comfort eating during this time. I get it. You know, diving into whatever it is, the cookies, the ice cream, maybe it's alcohol, you know, consuming something that you think will make you feel better. Yeah. And it might temporarily, but long term, it's not going to make us feel better. It's not going to take care of the situation. In fact, most of you, if you think back, you probably realize that indulging like that only makes you feel worse afterwards. So if you have a tendency to overeat, and again, I understand that, realize the recommendation I gave earlier about eating 3 times a day, having meals that satisfy your hunger, filling that plate with lots of fruits and vegetables that help to fill us up. That's going to help to fuel our body so food doesn't call your name in the same way. And then take a look at that hunger. Is it really hunger? I mean, is your stomach growling? Are you feeling lightheaded and dizzy? Or are you just feeling stressed? Are you feeling overworked? and anxious? Are you feeling impatient about the changes that are going on? Well, I would recommend that you take a look at this list and identify exactly what it is that you're feeling. So if you think you're sad or you're mad or you think you're hungry, and you say to yourself, oh, I just ate lunch, it's probably not hunger. Take a look at this list. Read through them. I like to read them out loud because if they resonate, I can kind of feel it in my body and I'll say, oh, that's it. Maybe you're feeling overworked. Okay, let's identify that. You're overworked. Let's label it. Name it to tame it. You've named it what it is. You're feeling overworked. Where can you get some help? Who can help you? Where can you get some help? What can you drop that you're doing that really isn't necessary? Are you doing something because you should be doing it? Someone put it in your brain that you need to? Is that really right for you? Maybe you can change that. Are you feeling stressed by finances? I get it. A lot of us are in that situation. But the chocolate chip cookies aren't going to help. So what can you do? Do you need to take a look at your budget? Do you need to talk to your accountant? Do you need to go to the bank and see if you can get some help? Go to the city, the county, see what kind of assistance is available out there. But indulging isn't going to get rid of it. You've got to focus. And I'll tell you, going back to the Serenity Prayer again, the more you focus on the things you can and actually do something about it, even if you hit a brick wall maybe one day, you're going to feel more in control of your life, and you don't feel like overindulging. I also think it's a good idea to keep your hands busy. And, it might be knitting or playing the piano or fixing something or gardening. Do something to keep those hands busy during those times of the day, perhaps the evening, in which you feel most inclined to overindulge. I have something really simple on my desk. It's a smooth, well-worn shell, and it just fits right there in my finger, and somehow just holding on to that is kind of like maybe like my biggie when I was a kid. We can find something to help to comfort us that isn't food related. Maybe take a walk, get out there and get some fresh air. So if you are overindulging, identify what's the feeling, when is it happening, and do something about it. Focus on the emotions that you're actually feeling. And I know that's a tough one because, frankly, I grew up in a household, 9 kids, where we were told basically if you cry or if you get upset, just to shut up, suck it up. We were not allowed to express our emotions, not even to help to identify what they were and come up with solutions. This is something I had to work on as an adult. But if I can do it, you can do it too. So there you go. In this video, we talked about the importance of fueling your body. 3 meals a day is important. Eat enough to satisfy your hunger so you're not hungry, you're not full, you're just feeling right. And think about how you fill up that plate. If you tend to be a meat and potatoes kind of gal or guy, well, realize that that's not going to give us the nutrition that we need to stay healthy and sane. And you know what? Those fruits and vegetables are so important in fighting infection. So important during this time. So add a few more pieces of fruits and vegetables. Aim for like 5 a day, 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. And if you are a comfort eater, identify what it is that you're really feeling. If it's not hunger, if you're just sad or mad or lonely, you know what? Come up with a solution. There are solutions. Once you name it, you can tame it. And keep your hands busy as well. That always helps. I'll be back again with some more videos on how to sleep and move and think during these trying times to help you stay healthy and sane. If you need more motivation, support, I'm out there live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. It's just a brief webinar about 20 minutes long in which I interview experts in the field. And each time I think you'll walk away with 1 or 2 quick ideas of something you can do to have a better attitude about managing these difficult times during the corona pandemic. To register for these calls, just go to that website near the bottom of the page, drjoe.mykajabi.com/sanity-calls. So until then, I'll see you and take care.